Mayfield, possibly out of Cleveland. You want to be a boss? That's how you be a boss. I did. I made a mistake. Hey, welcome and good morning. We have breaking news. Brittney Griner has been released from a Russian prison in exchange for international arms dealer Victor Bout. Now, Victor Bout has been in jail for 14 years. On the 11th, November 2nd, 2011, he was convicted. Here's the deal. All right, Victor Bout is an arms dealer who was imprisoned for threatening and being able to kill many Americans. Brittney Griner, who, let's be honest, you just kind of feel, I don't know, weird when you see or hear about Brittney Griner, even before all this, even with her ridiculous standing, doesn't want to stand for the national anthem, the whole weirdness about her was always, I don't know. But now she goes to Russia, and she gets arrested, and she goes to jail, and she's going to go for 9 months, and I wanted her out. I felt like, look, this is ridiculous. This is idiotic. I mean, let's do something Biden administration. And the Biden administration did. The Biden administration, the most corrupt administration of our time, decided it was a good swap, Victor Bout, who has been in jail for 14 years, for Brittney Griner. We'll see how that works out, right? It's a one-for-one swap. But don't let this surprise you. Don't let this surprise you that Paul Whelan, a Marine who has been in prison for 14, don't let this surprise you that this administration did this, that this administration got this done. It is very, very simple. It's very, very simple. All right, here's the deal. Joe Biden is corrupt. Joe Biden panders. Joe Biden will do whatever it is Joe Biden can do to get votes. That's it. So don't let this be a surprise to you when you hear Brittney Griner out and a man named Paul Whelan not. This covers all the bases: the LGBT community, the African American community, the sports community. What does Paul Whelan cover? Oh, only the most important of our communities, the military. Oh, only the most important things going, the people that actually matter, that defend our freedom. But we understand this now. We understand your media. We understand Twitter. If it covers the LGBTQ community, the African American community, sports communities, my man is going to do it. Don't worry about the guy Paul Whelan. But let's take this for what it is. Maybe, just maybe, he couldn't get Whelan out. Maybe, just maybe, Russia's pretty strong. Russia knows what they have. Look, we'll let some inconsequential basketball player get out. We don't care about her. Well, we care about her. We get our arms deal. Look at it from the other side. Russia says, well, we care about this idiot who hates America anyway. What do we care? We don't care about Brittney Griner. Well, we care. You can have her, but we get our arms dealer. We get our smuggler back. And you guys have to have your dementia-ridden president get up there and act like he got a win. And you got Kamala Harris in the back looking like she just got it done with the governor or the mayor of San Francisco. So look, this is perfect. Don't think for a second that America is weak. We are weak. We voted in weak. We voted in weak and corrupt. That's what we voted in. At least with Trump, you would have voted in strong and corrupt. People are saying to me all the time on Twitter, well, you know, we're weak. You think? You think? And we left a Marine. You think? You're surprised by this? And I know that people can come at me for this. And if I worked at ESPN, I would never be able to say what I'm saying. But this is the truth. He covered every one of his places. The gay community. I think we're supposed to say gay or homosexual. I think it's gay. I'm not sure. You guys got to tell me. The African American community. The sports community. That's what he covered. Did he cover the Marine? Did he cover the... No, of course not. But good for Biden. And I'll tell you this. Here's why I'm happy about this. Because he covered the American community. You all can get mad at me because I said this is fantastic news, and it is. To me, it's fantastic news when an American, and I've talked about this for 4 or 5 years, or 4 or 5, 6 months now, when an American gets held for nonsense, I want her or him out. American, Brittney Griner, held for nonsense. I wanted her out. Is it a bad deal? Of course it's a bad deal. Is it a good deal for Russia? Of course it's a good deal. Does it make us look weak? Of course it makes us look weak. Is it pandering? Of course it is. Of course it is, but he got an American out. And that has to be celebrated. People ask me all the time. People ask me this all the time. Here's the deal. What do you think a president should do? I think a president should keep gas. I think, not you, I think. A president, I don't want to hear about inflation. I want the stock market going. I don't want to see gas lines. I don't want to see gas prices going up. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see that. I want now the border secure. And if I was going to add to it, I want Americans taken care of, because I grew up in the 70s where all these things were prevalent. I grew up in the 70s where, as David Hookstead, who's going to join us in a minute, talked about, look, here's the deal. They were hanging American soldiers right in the middle of the square in Tehran during the hostage. I want Americans out, and I'm really glad they got Americans out. But if you're going to ask me, why not Paul Whelan, I just gave you the reason. I gave you the reason. One, Russia's smarter than that. Two, and doesn't care about Brittney Griner. What does Russia care? Two, it panders to the communities that this administration panders to. And three, this administration does not like America. Does not like America, so they're not going to go overboard to help an American soldier. It is not America first. It is pander first. And fine, if pandering got Brittney Griner out, God bless her. I'm glad she's out. I've said I'm glad she's out, but don't sit here and tell me, well, we're weak. Of course we're weak. Weak? Are you out of your mind? Friend of mine, I see your tweets, can't help myself. You know Brittney Griner literally used her letter to the president to urge Paul Whelan. You can be happy one American is coming home and disappointed the other is not. Both things can be true. I agree. Agreed. This is from Ryan Rucco. You can be happy when Americans come, disappointed the other, and I hope that one does too, and commit to fighting for that as well. Both things can be true. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know what your problem is. I saw your tweets and can't help myself. You know Brittney Griner herself used her letter to urge the president to come home? Yeah, I did. Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. But if you're going to sit here and you're going to say that America's weak, you're out of your mind. It is weak. It is absolutely weak. But I'm happy an American came home. I'm very happy an American came home. And if people want to get on my ass, then get on my ass. But we both know this is a corrupt administration. We both know this is a nonsense administration. This is a political administration. Of course we're weak. We're weak and we're corrupt. And here's a guy that says the president and his administration are showing the world how incredibly weak we have become. It's amazing how every single decision made is horrible for the country. Well, guess what? We are weak. Guy says this is not fantastic news. This is utter complete BS. Never amazes me what this administration is doing. What about the other presidents? It shouldn't amaze you. It should be suspected. The Biden administration is the most corrupt we've ever seen. Twitter literally silenced Americans. Print media couldn't be. Nothing should amaze you anymore. And of course this administration. Of course. Guy says fantastic news would also be that Paul Whelan was coming home. Please tell the Marines family that this is fantastic news. I say I don't disagree even a little, but an American did get freed. The fact that an American got freed makes me happy. The fact that an American got freed means that one less American is being held. That's it. That's all. One less American. All right? And I'm all in on that. And isn't that exactly what I'm saying, Ryan Rucco? Isn't that exactly what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I can't say it any clearer, son. But that's exactly what I'm saying. Both things can be true. I don't care about Brittney Griner's letter to get Paul Whelan. Everything that you see is simply going to be a publicity stunt. But the fact of the matter is, Brittney Griner is free, which means one less American is being held. Period. Dakich, you're the worst. It's rhetoric. Every single decision is pure rhetoric. I'm over it. Furious today. Absolute disaster for Whalen family. Traded her for someone responsible for over 1 million deaths. Good trade, scumbags. Well, I don't disagree with that, but American is free. David Hookstead knows more about this maybe than anybody. Should America take out the merchant of death? It's time for Biden to show some strength. That is my friend David Hookstead's tweet. David, what do you got? Should America now go after the merchant of death?
Well, thanks for having me, Dan. Obviously, I'm like you. I think we're very much on the same page. If Biden was strong, if he was a Ronald Reagan strength leader, the first moment the merchant of death went to a foreign country to start dealing arms again to kill American, a drone would kill him, or we would send people in to take him out. You can't put a guy like that back out on the street to spill more American blood, in my opinion, and not do something about it. I am happy Griner's back. It is disgusting Paul Whalen is not. And yes, we should absolutely kill this guy if we get the chance.
Yeah, the thing about Griner getting out, look, if I'm Russia, and I want your take on this, what do I care? What do I give a damn about some American-hating basketball player, right? I mean, I get this guy. I get this guy that transports arms. I get this guy. I get a win for my people. At a time when I'm at war. I'm at war at Russia. I need everybody, all hands on deck. Isn't that what you do in war? What do I give a damn about some basketball playing athlete?
Right. Putin's goal here was to humiliate the U.S., right? That's what he wanted to do. That's what he successfully did. And then he got back a huge asset for his corruption and to ship arms all over the world. This guy sold anti-aircraft technology. He sold AK-47s. He armed every side of just about every conflict in the history of the world in modern times. And those weapons were used to kill Americans. Putin will absolutely put him back in play. And he gives up nothing for it. He gives up, a basketball player. Who cares? To him, he embarrassed Biden. He embarrassed the U.S. That was only his ever goal. He accomplished it, and now he gets the merchant of death back. And these are the tough choices presidents have to make. But we got to take this guy out if we get the chance.
Boy, that is interesting. I didn't even think of it from that side of it. Let me go this route with you. We're going to see this. We are. We already have. We're going to see Brittney Griner as some type American hero soon, aren't we?
I hope not. Look, I think you can say, and I think rational people can say, hey, look, Brittney Griner's home. That's a good thing. But that doesn't make Brittney Griner a Navy SEAL-esque character, right? She's not a hero because she got arrested. Was it a show trial? Absolutely. Should Russia have let her go? Absolutely. Did they only do this to humiliate us? Absolutely. But Brittney Griner all of a sudden does not become some heroic figure for the American public, or at least they shouldn't, but they will. And yes, she went through terrible things. I feel horrific for her. Let this be a reminder. You should all be grateful to be living in the USA. Even in prison, we don't torture people. We don't not feed them. She faced a terrible situation.
Does it matter even a little bit to anybody that Griner actually wrote a letter? I got Ryan Rucco from ESPN sending me a text. I see your tweets, can't help myself. Brittney herself used her letter to the president to urge bringing Paul home and other Americans. I mean, of course, you got to do that. You got to do whatever the lawyers tell you to do.
Yeah, something tells me Brittney Griner had no idea who Paul Whalen was. Do we really think Brittney Griner, a WNBA player, was aware of other Americans in Russian prisons? Of course not. Someone told her to write that and smartly told her to write that. Let's be clear, very smart thing to do. And we need to get Paul Whalen home, but that letter Griner wrote ultimately made no difference. Biden was going to go get her back one way or another, whether she wrote a letter or not.
Yeah, this is interesting. Micah Parsons, NFL player, puts out a tweet about moments ago about Biden's tweet. He said, yeah, we're still not voting for you. And then he got mad that you left a Marine home. Look, I will say this. I know that Biden panders. We all know Biden panders, right? We all understand. We all understand that Brittney Griner, athlete, covers a lot of pandering for Biden. However, I will say this. Again, I go the other side. people that say that he should just get Paul Whelan home instead of Brittney Griner, Paul Whelan is actually important in this deal. I can't reiterate this enough, David. He's actually important. We just talked about it. Brittney Griner is of no importance to Russia. So it's a tough comparison in my brain.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the thing to remember is the Russians they believe what they claim is that Paul Whelan is some top secret CIA spy asset. I don't believe that to be true. I don't think the U.S. government thinks that's true, but the Russians think that's true. And if the Russians believe he's a spy, they're going to hold him indefinitely. Right? They don't want to give that guy up because then they feel they look weak, whether it's true or not. I saw those Micah Parsons tweets. I agree that we got to get this guy back. Unfortunately, you're dealing with an insane person in Moscow and Putin. And I worry Paul Whelan will not be released in any foreseeable future timeline.
Do you think it's going to be hailed as such, but I'm talking about with regular people. Like, we all know the corrupt media is going to tell us how great this is and everyone's going to switch. I actually saw David Lloyd on ESPN SportsCenter. I was shocked by this. Actually not pander. He actually discussed Paul Whelan and how this was a tough time for Paul Whelan and his family. Great time for Brittney Griner. I thought he handled it fairly. I never see that. Usually I just see the pander. Do you think regular people, normal folk in this country, are like, yeah, this is great, but she hates America?
Yeah, I actually think that's what a lot of people feel. I've heard people say the exact same thing. Let's be honest, Dan. If you or I were in a Russian prison right now, Brittney Griner would be sleeping like a baby. She wouldn't lose 1 second of thought if you or I was locked up anywhere in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't be empathetic and want to get her back. But I think a lot of people see through this charade. Some people are trying to paint, again, that she's a hero, that she's a cut above the rest. No, she's a WNBA player who got put through a show trial. It was completely unacceptable. But, and this is important, that doesn't make her more important than Paul Whelan. Doesn't make her more important than anyone else, actually. Just because you're famous does not mean you should be treated by a different standard, in my opinion.
People complain to me that this makes Biden look weak, okay? I've said we voted in weak. We voted in weak and corrupt. You could say that Trump was corrupt, fine. I guess it would have been the lesser of two evils. You vote in Trump, you get strong, tough, but corrupt. You vote this guy in, you get weak and corrupt. Saying that we look weak in this, I think that's already a given that we're weak. Don't you?
Yeah, no, there's no question. Look, the way you fight the Russians, the big red dog, when the big red dogs start digging in your backyard, you shoot it. That's a line from the famous movie 13 Days about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Biden is weak. Biden is weak because no one fears him. Again, let's go back to Trump, like you just said, love him or hate him. People never knew what Trump was going to do. So they were required to assume he could do anything. Case in point, when China arrested those UCLA basketball players, he had them out in 3 days? I think he flew them back on Air Force One because people feared or respected. So is it better to be feared by your enemies, or is it better for them to not care? The answer is you want your enemies to fear you. And Russia is a country that dictates itself off strength. That's the only thing they respect. So if they don't think you're strong, they're going to push you around. And this never would have happened under other leaders. I truly believe that. And when someone kidnaps essentially one of your citizens, you look them straight in the eyes and say, you have until sundown tonight to let them out, or you're not going to like how we handle it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, you talk to military people. Your deal here on Outkick is absolutely fantastic. It may be the best thing that we've got going here on Outkick, and I'm going to get to that in a second. In terms of military people, in terms of the people you discuss, how weak are we in their eyes?
Well, I think they would say that those guys, their cut, the group they're in, they're as strong and as good as ever. What they feel like is young men, especially in this country, have become incredibly soft, as have most people under the age of 30. And I'm only 30, so I'm not pretending like I'm not of that age. They feel that we've kind of lost our edge. And I was interviewing a Black Hawk Down guy, and he said, think about it this way. If World War III started today, how many of the teenagers or 20-year-olds walking down the street do you think would be ready to fight? And the answer is not many. These are people that cry if their Starbucks orders are incorrect. But now we're supposed to believe they're going to defend the nation. I'm talking average citizens, not actual military members. They think the country's grown very weak, too soft, snowflakes, woke. All we care about is your feelings. And Dan, I know you feel the exact same way, as do I, as do most Outkick readers, because we are educated. We read the news. We see what's happening.
I got people on all over in my town, Mike Leach, because a player said, Coach Leach thinks I'm soft and I should transfer, so I'm transferring. And just because an 18 to 23-year-old says it, we're supposed to believe it, number one, condemn it, number two, and get the coach fired, number three. It's an amazing world we currently are living in.
Well, you're an Indiana man, right? You know all about Coach Knight. You think that he would have a problem telling someone they were soft? You think Herb Brooks, the Miracle on Ice coach, would have a problem telling someone they were soft? You know what you do when a coach tells you you're soft? You smile and you work your butt off. You go hit someone in the mouth to prove him wrong. He's probably trying to light a fire under you. But instead, again, it's the snowflake mentality. All that matters is your feelings. Oh, I got called soft. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to dig in and prove him wrong. I'm going to quit. What type of anti-American attitude is that?
That's exactly right. All right, let me go back to Griner now and Biden. I'm guessing there's going to be a production. There already was here. If you were advising Brittney Griner on how to handle this, because she, Oprah's going to be calling, right? I mean, everybody's going to be calling. What would you tell her to do?
I would say you walk to the podium, you look the country in the eyes, and the first words out of your mouth are, I have never been more grateful to be a citizen of the United States of America. I love this flag, I love this country, and I now more than ever understand the freedoms we have here, and I will never take them for granted again. If she did that, if those were the first words that left her mouth, she would win over the American public immediately. Immediately. Now, that's not what's going to likely happen. We all know that. But if she went up there and said, I regret some of my previous statements, and I now understand the power of this flag, of this country, and of this nation, the American public would fall behind her immediately.
I agree. I agree. You know what? I totally agree. You know what? I think that at some point, and I could be wrong about this, at some point, some athlete, and maybe it's Micah Parsons with his tweets today, David, at some point, some athlete standing up for the United States is going to be a great thing for them.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the opportunity. If you were an NBA player and you came out and you said, you know what? I hate the Chinese dictatorship. I hate that they're genociding Uyghur Muslims over there. I hate the oppression of them. And you were the only NBA player, certainly if you're an American citizen, because Enes Kanter already did it, but if you're an American and you stand up there and you say, I wish LeBron James had the guts to, instead of cashing checks from Nike, stand up to real oppression. He wants to trash the United States. How about trash the CCP in Beijing? If you did that as an NBA player, you'd be hailed as a hero. You did it as an NFL player, you'd be hailed as a hero, because we crave pro-America sentiments. Look at why was Top Gun the most popular movie of the summer? Because it celebrated the USA. There is such an opportunity, which is why Outkick is flourishing, because we see that lane. We're proud to be Americans. That's why we're winning. That's why we're dominating. And if an athlete did the same, they would be beloved.
I agree. No, I totally agree. I think, again, Micah Parsons, I tweeted his stuff out. And people say, hey, look, you're my favorite linebacker now. You're my new favorite, because let me go back to something. Victor Boot has been in jail for 14 years. He's an older guy. Would he be considered still a major asset to Russia and a real danger to the United States?
Absolutely, because the way they do this is, so Russia wants to arm people in a proxy war. They can't do it themselves. It's too obvious. So what they do, this is what he did for decades, is the Lord of War, the Merchant of Death. They give him the weapons. He transports them. He plays third party. I don't care how old he is. That's not a physically tasking job, right? He'll still be able to do that. And if we catch this dude in Colombia, Afghanistan, elsewhere in the Middle East, hey, you ride with horse thieves, you die with horse thieves. There's a lot of people that hate this guy. We don't even have to make it look like it was us. Just make it look like it was one of his many enemies and just get rid of the guy.
And I'm not smart enough to know this. You are. That's why you're on here, because I'm really not. We're giving a ton of cash, an open checkbook to the Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting with Russia. We just gave Russia an asset, the merchant of death, for crying out loud, for some frickin' basketball player. Is that contradictory, or is that just world politics?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't even thought about that before. That's a great point. Hey, here, I'll make you a compromise. Let's have the Ukrainians kill him. Everyone wins then.
But doesn't it seem contradictory for us to be giving billions?
It doesn't make a lot of sense for us to write a check for $60 billion and then hand an arms dealer back to the Kremlin in Moscow to ship more weapons, presumably some that will end up in Ukraine. Logically, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I do agree with you. This is a bad dude. I believe, as Trump used to say, he's a bad hombre. This is not a nice guy. There's an entire movie about him called Lord of War, about how he armed people to massacre individuals. I mean, what are we talking about, Dan? It's insanity.
Well, I always think this way, David, and my brain. So a guy's in jail, this guy Victor Boot, because this is real. A basketball player isn't going to go and be a threat to anybody other than herself, right?
Right.
Okay. So this guy's been in jail 14 years. Now, I'm guessing, like the Sopranos or like any mob, they can still, be involved from jail. But 14 years is a long time. Here's my thought, and this is just me. How long does it take a guy who was that important, that significant, was involved in murder of how long does it take a guy like that to get back in business?
There will be Russian agents on the plane when they transport him to Moscow. There will be government officials on the plane briefing him on how quickly they're going to get back. It's a matter of hours, if not a matter of minutes. As soon as he gets back to Russia, if he's not already there, he will hit the ground running. I promise you that. And I promise the viewers that.
I agree. I agree. I totally agree. There you see Micah Parsons. Hey, last thing before I let you go. Is it just optics? Is it just talk? Is it just nonsense when anybody says, yes, we got Brittney Griner out, but we are going to fight like crazy to get Paul Whelan out? Because I got to tell you, I didn't hear Paul Whelan's name once out of the Biden administration until Brittney Griner went to the can in Russia.
Well, the good news now is that his name is out there, that people do know. So
Right.
There's awareness on the fact Paul Whelan's been arrested. Look, I want to believe Biden. I want to believe the Secretary of State when everyone says we are working hard, and I hope they are. Unfortunately, we're not going to know that because it's all behind the scenes, dealing and wheeling and stuff like that. But as an American, I don't want to believe that we're not trying to get him back, because that would be disgusting and frankly unpatriotic and heartbreaking.
I agree with that. I agree. I don't want to hear that we're just, okay, we got the basketball player out, now we're good here. But I swear to God, I have so little faith, David. I have so little faith in the administration. And I have so much conviction that this administration is only about optics and pandering to its base that I don't know what to believe in terms of Paul Whelan. I would imagine Paul Whelan stays where he is.
Let me say this, Dan. This could be a great issue for a Republican 2024 candidate. Campaign on having the strength to get Paul Whelan back when Biden couldn't. That's a winning issue with voters, in my opinion.
I agree. David, thanks, man. I appreciate you jumping on. When something like this happens, we got to get you, man. We got to get your opinion. I didn't even think about taking the angel of death or whatever the hell, the merchant of death out, but I ain't mad about it.
Thanks, Dan. See you later.
See you, brother. That's David Hookstead. Give him a watch, man. D. Hookstead. Absolutely fantastic. Dan, you've been clamoring for Biden to do whatever it takes for months now. Well, he did. Don't try to throw him under the bus now. This is a disaster trade without at least having Paul Whelan included. Look, I don't know how else to say it, but I am extremely glad Griner is out. I also know that the Biden administration is completely and totally about optics. And if you don't think that, I don't give a damn. I mean, I know this. I mean, all you got to do is look. They are not about substance. I mean, if you don't believe that, then you're not paying attention. It just is. So, I got Ryan Rucco wondering did I read it wrong? Read it however the hell you want, man. I mean, on this show, I have been clamoring for Brittney Griner to get out. Both things can be absolutely true. I can be extremely glad that Brittney Griner is out, which I am. And in fact, I have been clamoring for Brittney Griner since way before anybody else. You can go back and look at the tapes, but I can also tell you that this freaking administration is 1,000% about optics. We'll be right back. I got a monster, absolute monster for you today. We come back. We got to get to some headlines, including Purdue. I got the guy for you, Purdue. I got the guy to hire. We'll be right back.
Two teams went out. One was actually a team from the unit that I now play on TV that was attached to us. They went out. They went on the front side, or went around to go to the front side of this other house, and my team was basically going towards the back side of the house. So very shortly, what happened was it was the wrong house, and when we hit that one house, the actual house it was, which was next door, which is not exactly next door because Sutter City is kind of weird of how it's built. But, they heard us. They were getting ready, prepping, their gear, and so they were ready to go. So when that team came around, a bunch of dudes opened up out of the front, what I assume would be the living room, with AKs and shot. I think they shot 3. If I'm not mistaken, they shot 3 of the members of that team. 2 of them were pretty much out of the fight at that point. But they were, it was heavy. I wasn't on that side of the house, but just hearing it, I was like, oh man, that's extreme. So I ran into the back door, which came into the kitchen, cleared through there, went in the hallway, and those same guys, as we approached that room, shot through the walls of that hallway, shot the guy literally right next to me. So then we backed off, and then we were and I'd have to draw it out, but we were in a tactical position that was just there wasn't a lot we could do. So we were trying to kind of figure out how to solve it. And the next thing I know, I remember just the whole room, or actually it wasn't really a room, it was the hallway, so it was more like a tube straight at me, and just everything exploded. And I actually remember hitting the ground and looking up down the hallway. I was just confused.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Brittney Griner is not the only news of the day in our world here. Purdue, the Boilermakers, lost their coach. Jeff Brohm is reportedly headed to Louisville. Jeff Brom's been a good coach at Purdue. When he took over Purdue, Purdue was 3-30 in the Big Ten. They made one of the colossal, surprising to me, but colossal, ridiculous hires in a guy named Darrell Hazel. I was surprised Hazel flamed out like he did, but he did. So now Purdue loses a coach, and Jeff Brohm goes home. I got the guy. 6-year, $35 million deal for Jeff Brohm to go home. I got the guy. I've been talking about this guy. His name is Willie Fritz. Willie Fritz is the guy to go for Purdue. He is absolutely the guy. 1,000% the guy. Why is he the guy? Well, because when you're at Purdue, a couple things need to happen. Number one, you need a guy that knows how to win at different levels. Purdue is a great football program. No, it's not. Purdue is a very good to good football program. Great is the Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten. Very good is Penn State. The rest, they're good. The bad ones we know, Indiana, Northwestern, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, although Northwestern's been good, I'm arguing with myself. But here's the deal. I got the guy. Willie Fritz of Tulane needs to be the head coach at Purdue. When Purdue hired Joe Tiller, Purdue hired a guy that looked like Wilford Brimley. I'll never forget, driving down the street at a parade, they had Cam Cameron, the new coach at Indiana, Bob Davie, the new coach at Notre Dame, and Willie Fritz, all sitting in a convertible. Not Willie Fritz, Joe Tiller. And I'm like, damn, they hired Wilford Brimley. Indiana got our favorite son, Cam Cameron, and Purdue got the button down, Notre Dame got the button down looking like Notre Dame, Bob Davie. How did Purdue do this? Well, it turned out Joe Tiller was better than all of them, and it wasn't even close. Turned out Joe Tiller changed college football by the way he ran his offense. Turned out Joe Tiller was terrific. Why? He was a coach. Why? He had common sense. Why? He wasn't young and flashy. Why? He wasn't a fraud. He knew how to handle people. Well, Willie Fritz, the coach at Tulane, has got Tulane in the Cotton Bowl at Tulane. Now, I don't know if you know where Tulane is. I call it down the street from New Orleans. It's in New Orleans, but it's down the street. It's where all the rich homes are. I've been to Tulane. There's no way you can win and get in the top 25 in football at Tulane. Willie Fritz did. And before you tell me, well, you know, Willie Fritz had a bad year last year. So did Joe Tiller at Wyoming before he had a good year and then came back to Purdue. I'm going right now, if I'm Mike Babinski, and I'm going to get Willie Fritz. Now, look, I understand there's a lot of candidates. There's a ton. Brock Spack, longtime coach at Illinois State. Maybe he's the guy. He's won at a pretty good level. He's a former Purdue linebacker. There's all kind of coordinators all over the place. Purdue needs to not make a splashy hire. Purdue needs to make a hire that is a terrific football coach, that has a system that can score points, utilize quarterbacks, and let's go. And that guy, ladies and gentlemen, is a man named Willie Fritz. I've been saying it. I'll say it. I told you Brohm was leaving, but I told you 4 years ago. I make a joke of it, and everybody loses their mind. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I don't get college basketball. College basketball is out of its mind. And according to a police report, teammates of a New Mexico State basketball player who shot and killed a 19-year-old college freshman helped remove the gun from campus after the shooting. This is really involved. Like, this is, it has everything in it from going back 100 years ago to Happy Days to the Baylor shooting. So here's where, back in the day, on a show called Happy Days, at the rival high school, a girl and girls tried to lure Richie Cunningham to their campus to make sure that he couldn't be at the big game. Well, this same thing happened in this instance. Somehow, Mike Peake has not been charged in a shooting before the Lobos hosted the Aggies. All right, but he is suspended. This is, I don't get this. There was a brawl at the New Mexico State game. All right, Mike Peake was apparently lured somehow, some way by a teenage girl and other players of another, I don't exactly know, campus. I don't think it was basketball related, where they were going to beat him up, kill him. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, they lured this guy to do something nefarious. Somehow, Mike Peake has a gun. Mike Peake shoots, apparently, somebody. Next thing you know, Mike Peake isn't arrested, but he's suspended. Assistant coach had the gun. Players tried to hide the gun. This is chaos. Like, this is absolute chaos. One of the men attacked Peake with a baseball bat. Another pulled out a gun and shot at Peake. Peake returned fire, shooting this kid, Brandon Travis, 4 times, killing him. Peake was shot in the leg. The girl and one of the men, Jonathan Smith, have been charged in connection with beating Smith. After the shooting, Peake is seen on video approaching a yellow Camaro where he meets 3 of his teammates. Peak is seen putting the items, it's a tablet and it's a gun, into the trunk right before it drives off. Look, I don't know, but this is insane. Remember the Baylor shooting where one player shot the other and the players covered it up? Look, Peak sounds to me like he's in the right. I don't know why he's got a gun. I don't know why he's dealing with guys that have guns, but that seems to be our society. I feel bad for everybody involved here. I got to tell you something. If I were a player, I hate to say it, back in Indiana, and one of my teammates shot somebody, I knew it was in self-defense. I knew what happened. I probably would put the gun in the trunk of my car. I probably would. I'm sorry, but I probably would. I'll keep you posted on this incredibly wacky story. We got a new wacky story. Bobby Wagner. We're going to get into what happened with Bobby Wagner with Jonathan Hutton here in a minute, but he's not going to be charged. All right, let's go to another one. A Seattle restaurant has been robbed 18 times because the city refuses to prosecute criminals in what's called justice reform. Yeah, you're reforming the little you-know-what out of justice. Hell, it is reform. Hey, look, you robbed my place? You get out. That's reform. We're basically saying, hey, look, we don't care if you rob. We don't care what you do. Hell, we all know the deal. We don't care. What do we care about? I don't know. We care about this. We care about let's make damn sure that we cater to criminals. That's what we do. Let's make damn sure that we cater to 18 to 23-year-olds in every walk of life. Wait, what? You did what? Oh, you're out. We see it here in Indianapolis. I played golf with the night commander of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Force. Okay? I did. I'm like, hey, man, one of the night commanders, a bunch of them. But anyway, I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? He goes, oh, it's crazy. I go, what? How's this prosecutor? He goes, this prosecutor's getting people killed. Why is he getting people killed? Because he doesn't prosecute criminals. He panders. Don't pander with criminals. You know, I saw in LA, they're actually prosecuting, if you can believe this. If you can believe this, they actually decided that they were going to, ladies and gentlemen, prosecute a ring. You've seen this on your television. You've seen, hey, look, let's go grab all the clothes. LA's prosecuting that, and I'm very, very happy. Will Levis, the quarterback for Kentucky, is going to opt out. Notre Dame tight end Michael Mayer is going to opt out. A few years ago, I'd have been blanked off about this. A few years ago, I'd have said, wait a second here. What are you doing now? I don't care. A friend of mine asked me yesterday, what do you think about the NIL? What do you think about the transfer portal? I go, you know what? I honestly don't care. My sense has been this. I'm going to watch the Notre Dame game whether or not Michael Mayer plays. I'm probably going to watch the Kentucky football game whether or not Will Levis played. In Will Levis's case, Kentucky probably has a better chance to win. No, it's true. In Will Levis's case, it's not a big deal. All right? So, anyway, you know what? Good for them. Good for them. Hope Will Levis is the number one pick. I hope my Colts get Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is fantastic. Michael Mayer is great. Michael Mayer, I saw an interview with him. Love him. You know, if you opt out of a bowl game, I got to tell you, good for you. Good for you. What the hell? I mean, I don't think we should play any games. I think what we should do is just let players go on scholarship, put their uniform on, and play touch football. Did you see what happened with Mark Ingram? Mark Ingram apparently tore his ACL. But Mark Ingram, the Heisman Trophy running back, did you see the video of Mark Ingram going out of bounds like 2 yards or 1 yard instead of getting the first down? That is what football has become. That is what sports have become. There's no reason for LeBron James to play. I don't even think he should play. Actually, I lied. LeBron James should play because he's chasing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record in the NBA, so he should play. But nobody else should play. Why play? Guys in college basketball, guys in college football, all they do is complain about having to play a game that they grew up loving. Guys in the NBA take load management. They shouldn't play. Will Levis, you showed what a leader you weren't during the course of the season. You showed you're good. Go lift weights. Go get your 40 time. Go get your shuttle run going. Go get all that stuff. Go get it done. That's awesome. There you go. Fantastic. LeBron James actually did this. LeBron James actually sat out the 11th game of the year. The 11th game of the year. By the way, that fraud that is Kim Mulkey. God is good. Prayers are powerful. Brittney's on her way home where she belongs. Our prayers remain with her and her family as they recover and heal together. Kim Mulkey's full of crap. I just saw it here on SportsCenter. Kim Mulkey had refused to comment. Maybe she's smarter than everybody. You know what I mean? Maybe she is smarter than everybody. So at the end of the day, I'm all in on it. But the truth of the matter is simply this. The truth of the matter is Brittney Griner is out, and I'm very happy about it. I got to tell you something else. I saw this. I'm going to assume it's true because Kevin McNamee says it's true. New from the Whalen family, there is no greater success than for a wrongful detainee to be freed and for them to get home. The Biden administration made the right decision to bring Ms. Griner home and to make the deal that was possible rather than waiting for one that wasn't. This is exactly what I have said on our show. You think Putin gives a rat's ass, even a little bit, about some basketball player? We do. We act like athletes are important. Think about it. Like, Tony Kornheiser, way back when, was my favorite radio announcer. Tony Kornheiser said, hey, look, I got no interest in having athletes on my show. I got no interest. None. Zero. Zip. No interest. None. And I feel the same way. I feel the exact same way. There isn't an athlete that when they come on their show, you go, oh, that was really interesting. I've been doing this 14 years. 15, into my 15th year. I'm just telling you, at the end of the day, there isn't an athlete that I think, is worth talking to, unless something dramatic happened and you're doing it just for ratings. Who cares if you're Putin about an athlete when I can get the merchant of death back? All right, we're going to talk to our man, Jonathan Hutton. Hey, Jonathan, I got to get your take on something. You ready? Uh-oh, I don't hear him.
Sorry, Dan. I'm sitting here listening to you for the last 45 minutes, and it was muted the whole time. My bad.
I don't blame you. Hey, I got to ask you, Bobby Wagner is not going to be charged for knocking the hell out of that fan.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. Had he been charged, I think that'd have been a bad thing. I don't know. What's your take on it?
If you run onto a field and you've got like some smoke bomb or whatever's going on, you deserve whatever's coming to you when you hop that railing. This is for the individuals, these protesters that are taking off, whether it be the Super Bowl, a bowl game, or in this case, Monday night or Sunday night football. Look, Bobby Wagner did everyone in that stadium a service, because the guys that are the men and women that are chasing these idiots in these yellow vests are making about $17 an hour, and I know because I was one of them back in college. The last person between the stage and Alan Jackson was me. And you think I'm taking down anybody that jumps on that stage? Hell no. Bobby Wagner deserved to clock that dude. And I am all for it whenever these idiots run on the field in the middle of the field. No, who knows what they're doing? Get them out of there. They drag them out of there with somebody who has zero training, zero badge. But yet if a player does it and reacts on the sideline, all of a sudden, well, he was the bad guy. No, the idiot that ran on the field deserved that.
is anything going to come out? I'm going to ask all you guys this. Is anything going to come out on John Robinson? Because in our world, in Indy, if Chris Ballard had done what John Robinson did, we would give him the keys to the city, half ownership. What's going on here?
Dan, let me say this. If something comes out on John Robinson, the Titans have done an awful job of getting out in front of this story. Yes, they fired him, but they refused to send ownership, team president, anyone out there to speak on the matter about the direction of the franchise and why it went down when it did. So while if something else is behind the scenes like that, I'll be more stunned than I would be with the timing of all of this based on the way the Titans have been completely radio silent outside of Mike Vrabel's normal Wednesday press availability, where he stood up there and basically said nothing as to why the franchise went in that direction. And he said nothing because he's not the guy who made the decision. Ownership did, and they have stayed completely silent on this. You know, when they drafted Jeffrey Simmons a few years back, there was an issue with him where he's on tape with some domestic violence in high school. And Amy Adams Strunk was at that press conference. She was nowhere to be found yesterday. I thought it was really, really bad and weak on behalf of the organization to not let everyone know exactly why you made the move. She did in a statement, which was about roster building and results. But if it's about results, you let the results happen over the next month, where you know where I stand on this team. I don't think they're very good. They're good in a very bad division. But at least let them prove that and prove us wrong if they so choose, because very arrogant about how they go about things. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because they win and they're being chased by the organization that used to win the division, the Indianapolis Colts. But for as determined as they are with their focus and path to victory, yesterday they didn't give a very determined or focused outlook as to why they made the move.
I always try, I get people that get mad at me, but I always try to go with common sense, okay? Let's just say that everything is great. There's no workplace nonsense. There's no background nonsense. Yeah. Common sense-wise, what good does it do to get rid of your GM right now as opposed to wait, 6 weeks?
The only thing that it does is it removes whatever was toxic behind the scenes. That's the common sense answer to that. Because December the 6th, when they fired him, when they announced this on Tuesday, the candidates that are good across the league that will be considered for general manager positions are currently in front offices that are preparing for their own drafts, preparing for their own free agent period, preparing for injuries, preparing for the playoffs. And they're in scout meetings. They're going to bowl games. And that's where those people are. You can't just chat with those people now. It actually benefits a team to get out in front of a head coaching opportunity if you're after Sean Payton right now. But I don't know the general manager that's the Sean Payton of this year that the Titans are all of a sudden after for a general manager that they just fired that hasn't had a losing season since he was hired, that took over a miserable organization on the field and with ownership at the time, and actually paired well with Vrabel to the point where they were again going back to the playoffs as the division leader. I don't think Robinson was good over the last 2 years putting this roster together. There are a number of other things that I can point to that were not good as to why they did not advance to the playoffs. Quarterback, offensive coordinator, we can continue to go down that list. There are other issues that continue to be the things that we will judge in January, and it's peculiar that Robinson was also not judged in January of this year. The guy that rebuilt them, Dan, they didn't have faith to rebuild them back. And that's stunning, quite honestly. It's also, if you're a fan of winning Super Bowls, this team isn't winning a Super Bowl this year. Ownership's telling us that. And this is a mandate that division titles are not good enough. I'm all for that line of thinking, too.
All right. Everybody has egos, okay? Everybody. I used to tell Coach Knight when he would be a smart aleck and a jerk to the AD, I go, that guy's got an ego. He got an ego.
Yeah.
Your owner has an ego. All right. Now, I don't know. You tell me. A.J. Brown, I don't know the backstory. All I know is this. He's gone. He's playing the Eagles. He comes back. He whips up on the Titans. Everybody has got an ego, right? How much did that factor in? Because the timing suggests that it did factor in.
Look, but I said this yesterday on 360, Dan. The fact that they didn't come out and just directly say this, like Vrabel, an example, and this is the end around to what you're saying about AJ. Any speculation about this is fair game right now, because Vrabel was even hesitant to answer a question about whether or not Amy Adams Strunk was in the draft room and whether or not the trade had been discussed with him, who is sitting next to the general manager who's on the phone, who Vrabel is on camera. You can see how pissed off he is. He nearly, I thought on camera on ESPN, he was going to stand up and go punch a wall. And no, I don't think everyone was in lock and step with trading A.J. Brown. I thought it was a disastrous move. They traded away a guy that embodies their organization mantra, which, number one, they say tough, physical, team first. Team first pretty low on that totem pole for what they want. And they leave out the word alpha. They love alphas. And A.J. Brown was that. Now, they've drafted a lot of betas, quite frankly, recently. And ultimately, that's what we'll point to as to why Robinson was fired, because we have no other reason except for trading away A.J. Brown. With the speculation there is rampant because they won't say anything else about it. And if you're still upset about that, you at least allow the results to play out at 7-5. And a really good Eagles team that, again, the trade was done the afternoon of the draft. Robinson said that in the presser literally right after they traded him. So it's not like he just picked up the phone and flippantly traded A.J. Brown to Philadelphia. Philadelphia would have had to speak with A.J.'s agent, who was the real alpha of that move, and actually work out a contract, because Philly's not trading for him on a flippant move like that unless the contract details are already worked out, because they want their guy long term. They don't want another disgruntled wide receiver like the Titans just traded. So, again, that's common sense with it. And, yeah, I mean, people could be really upset about it, and it was a head-scratcher. But at the same time, it's not like people, the decision makers, didn't know what they were going to do when Robinson picked up the phone. It just does not correlate with me. And, by the way, Amy Adams Strunk was in the draft room. But Vrabel would not point to that. It's really strange yesterday.
Couple of things. One, your guy, Vrabel, said our team is at a crossroads. What's that mean?
It means, so think about who's saying this. Mike Vrabel. And by the way, he said it to the media, which means he already knows his team acknowledges this. He said it in the postgame before he took the podium right after their loss to Philly. But here's what he means. Crossroads, not by pointing fingers, because they have not done that in years past, to their credit. The defense, there are no Jalen Ramseys on that defense that are going to call out the offense for being barely able to score 20 points a game. Maybe they need that, but that ultimately doesn't help them. What Vrabel's saying is, look, I've been there, done that. We have to be playing our best football right now, and they're not. And the team acknowledges that. Like the players, the realists in that locker room will tell me, tell you, anybody, they're not a very good football team right now. Their record may indicate that, but I think they see more of a reflection of what the pundits were saying prior to the start of the season, more than they see a division leader that can clinch the AFC South with a win this Sunday over Jacksonville. So that is where they are, the crossroads of, are we going to get it back to where we were, which, by the way, through the first 9 weeks of the season, Derrick Henry was the leading rusher in the NFL this year. And since week 10, he's the 22nd leading rusher in the NFL. That's their identity. They don't have an identity right now. That's the crossroads. As they go into the most important stretch run of the season to make sure they're peaking at the right time, they're at a crossroads because what they do, they're not doing. And that's what Vrabel's pointing to.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And, at the end of the day, look, let's be honest. Vrabel, as much as I love him, I know you guys do, at some point people are going to say, what the hell are we doing in the postseason, aren't we?
Hey, they just fired a general manager who won 20 more games than he lost.
That's right.
It's time to crank up expectations. And if you didn't think Super Bowl was the goal, and Vrabel, I mean, again, I have no issues with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel did more with less of a roster than what could have ever been expected. He won Coach of the Year last year. He should be mentioned more for it this year. But the difference is they still have their guy healthy, and it's Derrick Henry. They're missing tons of offensive line play, defensive players, wide receivers. Their wide receiving core is the worst group packed together in the NFL. And they're just starting to get some play from their rookies overall. Yeah, expectations are larger than just winning the division. And Vrabel, for everything that's gone down this week, Mike Vrabel is not to blame here. But the expectations that John Robinson helped build to this point will now be the floor for Vrabel moving forward. And honestly, I don't think he wants to be a part of an organization that would have anything lower than that, right? I mean, that's the good news about where the organization is headed. I just wish someone that made the decision would stand up and actually say exactly what we're saying today, because right now it's just Mike Vrabel wanting to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Appreciate you, boss. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Dan. As always, great show.
That is the great Jonathan Hutton. You can see him at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central Time, Outkick 360. He and Chad Withrow doing an unbelievable job. There it is right there. All right. Jim Leyritz was not a hero of mine, but I loved him when he played for the Yankees. I'm a little bit older on him. I think he played at Kentucky, which I didn't like. So we may have played against each other in college. He went on to great things. I went on to hosting a show in my basement. He went on to hit a 2-run homer against one of my good friends, Tim Belcher, and made my boy Belcher lose his mind in the back halls in Seattle. We'll be right back with Jim Leyritz.
Today's edition of the Trey Wallace Podcast. Happy to be joined by Barrett Sallee. Everything is powered by Outkick.com. Barrett Sallee of CBS Sports joins us. What's up, buddy?
Oh, just getting through transfer portal palooza, bowl games. It's funny, Trey. I don't know if you feel this way, but I've noticed this for a while now. The offseason in college football is so much crazier because there's no structure to it. Like there's not like a pattern like there is during game week. I mean, it's been crazy the last couple of days.
It hasn't stopped, and that's the wild part about it. I mean, we were sitting in Atlanta on Saturday afternoon and watching Georgia demolish LSU, and we knew what was coming on Monday. And I don't think we expected it to be as we knew it was going to be crazy in a sense of there's going to be a lot of people testing the waters. But man, what we are seeing in the transfer portal, Barrett, it is setting up for the future. And there's a lot of kids that are going to be looking for homes after January, I think, that aren't going to have a spot.
Yeah, over 1,000 kids in the portal as of this morning. I kind of thought there would be a small group that, just put their name in just every single year, which, I mean, look, I get it. It makes sense. You're going to improve or you're going to have issues. And so you want to find different spots after every season. And, I understand that, but I mean, it is just nonstop. The names that get put in there. I think that coaches and even players that are not putting their names in the portal probably did not expect the Wild Wild West to be this wild. And the fact that you're getting so much booster money, collective money put in, the NCAA has got to be throwing their hands up in Indianapolis like, what do we do? What do we do? Because you're not supposed to recruit with NIL.
Yeah, I said this before we went to break, but Jim Leyritz made a good friend of mine, Tim Belcher, nuts. You can see the video. Like when Fox used to do like the top 10 blow-ups in the history of baseball, my man Belcher was all over it because of this guy. 2-run homer, 2-zip lead, Yankees. Don't mess with Jim Leyritz in the postseason, people. Hey, how are you, Jim? Thanks for joining.
No, I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing spectacular. You're a Yankee through and through. You're one of the legends of the Yankees because, well, frankly, you came up big in the clutch, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're a Yankee. You see Aaron Judge. What are your thoughts with the numbers and Judge staying home?
It's about what I thought he would get. I was guessing that, obviously with the amount of money that they're paying the guys like Scherzer and Verlander, that, as a position player, you're a lot more involved in an everyday basis. You've got to be worth more than that. And I give Aaron Judge a lot of credit. They were at $30 million last year for the Yankees, $36 million he wanted. He bet on himself, and now he's getting $40 million a year for 9 years. That's a pretty big number. And I think Aaron Judge has got to be proud of the fact that he put himself on the line like he did and was able to come through and raise that, what he was going to get last year, another $120 million.
How difficult is that? How hard? We talk about betting on ourselves like it's just normal. But in a place like New York City where, let's be honest, for Judge, it's how many home runs you're going to hit. And obviously he set a record. How difficult is it to bet on yourself?
Well, listen, I have the personality. I would do the same thing. But there's not too many people out there like that. And again, somebody who bet on himself and then halfway through, or not even halfway through, was asked to move to center field, a position that is a lot more taxing on his body than left field and right field, and then excel beyond measure that we've never seen in the likes of the game before, except for maybe Mickey Mantle. I mean, this guy just did everything possibly right that he could possibly do to go into his free agent year. And, God bless him. I'm glad that, number one, I'm glad the Yankees kept him. Number two, he would have been crazy going anywhere else. And even more so, had he signed with the Giants to come back this year and play opening day in Yankee Stadium as a Giant, I don't think the Yankees were ever going to let that happen.
I have a theory, and I'm curious. Look, I get it. Derek Jeter was a great player. Great player. You played with him. Great player. All-time great player. But I got to tell you, reputation and historical significance of being the shortstop of the Yankees, or you doing what you did in the World Series and playoffs with the Yankees, just makes it different to me. Is that the feeling in baseball?
100%. 100%. And I think the situation with Judge is he knew that if he re-signed with the Yankees, got the number that he was looking for, and then he's probably going to get the C on his jersey to become the next captain, that he automatically was having a rolling out a red carpet to the Hall of Fame. If he went somewhere else and got hurt in the first 2 years, or had a situation like Robinson Cano had, you know what? You lose all that. By remaining a Yankee, I think he basically paves his way to the Hall of Fame.
Here's something that you're a baseball guy through and through. So I got to ask you, all I hear is baseball's dead. Baseball's not this. Baseball's not that. And I say to myself, wait a second, on a Tuesday, they get 40,000 in San Diego. And then in the offseason, 400 million or 360 million goes to a player. Don't tell me baseball's dead when you look at the contracts that are being thrown around. It ain't dead, people.
Well, listen, one of the things about all my kids are growing up now. That's why I haven't been in the game the last couple of years, and because I've been raising them. But they're all gone now. And I said to my wife the other day, honey, I think I'm going to try to get back in baseball because it's the only profession that is recession-proof. And no matter what people want to say, right, there's a lot of money still in baseball.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, look, I get it. Football fields fill up once a week on a Sunday or a Thursday or a Saturday. I get all that. But freaking baseball, go get 30. At Wrigley Field, you play a night game on a Tuesday, you got 40,000 people cramming in there. I mean, don't tell me baseball. Bah. All right. Can the Yankees go get others? Does this contract with Judge hinder them in any way?
No, I actually think it catapults them to going out and getting other free agents that say, hey, listen, they're keeping their best. They're not getting rid of them. And I want to go join that team because, what they did last year, I hear the Yankees are not done. I can tell you that much. There's going to be some more trades. There's going to be maybe one or two more free agent signings. I know right now that they are in the Rondon sweepstakes as far as, and from all things that I'm hearing is that he does want to come here. This is one of the places on his list. So if you bring in another starter like that, now you get yourself to the position that now you might be able to. The Houston Astros have had some changes. Justin Verlander is gone. They might use Gurriel. Who knows what's going to happen there with the chemistry that they've had that's been so good that won them a World Series. Can the Yankees, with these new changes, have the chemistry and be able to beat the Houston Astros this year is the big question. And I think some of these moves that they're making gives them a better opportunity.
Oh, that's you know what? All right. Last thing before I let you go. People criticize baseball today because of the strikeouts. Judge is like the poster child, right? Home run, strikeout, great guy, great personality. Where are you at with the way the game is played now, Jim?
Well, in all honesty, Judge, even though he strikes out quite a bit, he's an anomaly because he still hit 300 almost. So for him, he's the anomaly. But I was watching an interview with MLB TV when Fred McGriff got inducted to the Hall of Fame. And he made a comment, and I'm glad that some of these old-time players are coming back out and saying, they're with this sabermetrics, with this hit velocity, all these other things that they have now in the game, that a guy hitting 202 with 40 home runs is being honored because he's still striking out 300 times. Fred McGriff said, why are we so enamored with velocity on 40 swings versus a guy hitting 310, driving in more runs, less home runs, and becoming more of a hitter? We need to get back to that. And I think that's what baseball's starting to see, and I'm hoping is getting back to when you got teams like the Houston Astros that show you, yeah, we can hit home runs, but guess what? We can walk, we can work the count, and we can still hit base hits when we need them. We need to get back to more baseball like that.
I agree with that. Do you think that the Astros will influence what you just talked about, play across the board? And do you think the new rules, the pitch clock, all that kind of stuff, the shift, no shift, do you think that'll influence the game in a positive way?
Yeah, I do think the shift will help. I think it's going to bring back more opportunities for guys to get base hits. One of the things they don't tell you about in these, it's a judgment call on whether or not, had there not been a shift, whether it was a base hit or not. That's a judgment call. And the sabermetric people are not going to rule against themselves because that's what they want. But I think with the shift, with the clock, I think it will speed up the game a little bit. But I do think that we're going to get back to the old school baseball to where we're going to put the ball in play. We're going to sacrifice ourselves more. And that, when you got a guy on second base with nobody out, it's more important that I get a ball hit to the right side to get into third base than if I try to hit a home run or strike out. I think that part of the game will come back because of some of these rule changes.
It's interesting. Jim, thanks a lot, man. It's an honor to talk to you, and thanks for taking the time with us.
No, thanks for having me, and hopefully we can talk a little bit more next year and see how this game turns out next year.
Yeah, I can't wait. I want to have you back, and I want to, after we see a little bit of the shift, I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to help baseball. Thank you, Jim. That is
Dan,
World Series hero. That is World Series hero Jim Leyritz. I love talking to guys that showed up in the big moments, man. And that dude showed up big time, man. I mean, big time. Guys just go to the Yankees and you get opportunities. And guys that are tough and strong like Leyritz, they show. Other guys wilt. Like, I get tired of hearing about people say, well, he couldn't make it in New York. Where the hell are you supposed to be playing? What are you supposed to be doing here? Like, what the hell? Stop it, stupid. All right. I'm stunned by this. You know, the news of the day is Brittney Griner gets out. Okay, Brittney Griner gets out. All right. I got to ask you, why is that a bad thing? A lot of people saying, and I'm going to ask our YouTube chat. I get it. Like, Paul Whelan should be out. I get it. But again, you got to look at it from the other side. Why, if you can get rid of a pain, which is Brittney Griner, if you're Putin, why would you even think about giving up a guy like Paul Whelan when you can get Victor Boot out for Brittney Griner? Look, we're going to put Becky Hammond, we're going to put all these people on our television and make it look like this person is so important. And in our world, our weird Western world, a WNBA player is that important. But I got to tell you, in the geopolitical world, Brittney Griner is literally a fly on an elephant's backside. Who cares? We're going to take all these people. Everybody's going to have them. Oh, we got to get Stephen A. Smith. That's great. But I have this. So Randy Weingard is the president of the teachers union, and this is exactly what I said. Exactly. What a great relief. Extraordinary news. A basketball star, but also a gay black woman is released. Oh, yes, of course, we want other prisoners like Paul Whelan released. Now, you can get on me for telling you the truth, but that's a big, listen to this. Randy Weingard has to remind us that Brittney Griner is a gay black woman. Don't think for a second. Now, I'm guessing that, I don't know, she deleted this, but that's the world that we live in. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is the world. We live in a world where Dawn Staley can come up here with a little hat pulled down, looking mad, and talk to Stephen A. Smith, and this is important. And it is. It's really important for the Griner family. But on the world stage, think of it this way. Vladimir Putin got an arms dealer back for someone that is completely inconsequential and hates America and won't stand for the anthem. And in his mind, you're going to stand up there, Biden, with your dementia raging or whatever's bothering you and your corruption piling up and act like this is a win for a variety of reasons. One of which is what Randy Weingardner said. She must remind us. Hey, I don't care if Brittney Griner's black, white, I'm glad she's out. We get our smuggler back. You guys get your dementia-ridden president back. That's the deal. We, ladies and gentlemen, we get to here in the United States do all of our important gaslighting stuff. We get to do all of our important stuff, which is remind the world, hey, look, guys, hey, look, we got this. We got our gay black woman back. That really matters to us. What matters to Putin is getting his smuggler so he can go win a war. By the way, Micah Parsons' new tweet. Just spoke to some people that I respect and trust. I should have been more educated on the topic and not tweeted out of emotion for my family. and others who have served. For that, I apologize. Also, if what I'm told about the attempts to bring Paul Martin or Paul What's-His-Face are true, then, whatever. All right. He didn't say Paul What's-His-Face. I'm sorry. Paul Whelan, retired Marine Paul Whelan. He didn't say Paul What's-His-Face. I was doing it in his, and for that I apologize. Also, if the attempts, then the best outcome was accomplished. I pray Mr. Whelan comes home, but I'm extremely happy for Brittney and her family. I'm not too prideful to admit that I made a mistake. So the wokies got to him. But you know what? I don't blame him for doing that. Look, the Whelan family came out and said, hey, look, it's the best outcome because Whelan wasn't getting out. And I'm trying to educate you on this. Like I said, I got 3 people right now, Stephen A. Smith, Becky Hammond, and Dawn Staley, that, and rightfully so, they're in sports. She's a big star in the WNBA, so this is a big deal to them that we got Brittney Griner out. And I think it's absolutely great. But looking at it from the other side, Putin's like, what are you talking about? I can do it in a Putin accent if you'd like, but the accent, what are you talking about? Why would we care? Why would we care about a basketball player when I just got the Merchant of Death out? Go do your TV shows. Go do your Western stuff. Go listen to some basketball coach, Dawn Staley. Go listen to her be angry. Go do it. Dan, how are you today? I'm wonderful, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank you. Dan, Outkick, was this trade worse than Mike Ditka trading the farm to draft Ricky Williams? Of course it was. But I wanted her out. She got out. I got what I wanted. Putin got he wanted. Think about it. Putin got what he wanted and frickin', yeah, that what's-his-face wasn't great, and I apologize for that. I was kind of reading it like what I thought Micah Parsons was going to do, so I apologize about that. Anyway, I do. I was kind of reading it like Parsons was all of a sudden saying, hey, wait a second here, this didn't matter, and, that ain't great. All right. Hey, Dan, the administration is being run by children. Method of deaths for vape pen American hater, a used car salesman. Could have done better. Where's Tom Dakich to negotiate? Shake my damn head. The timing of this prison swap is so suspect, yet perfectly a White House clown. Coach, you spent most of your show speaking on this matter. What has it taken your focus off? This is what my wife always says. Twitter, Facebook, censorship scandal, FTX. Come on. This is all planned to head fake. Interesting. But look, the Paul Whelan family said you couldn't get him out, so you get somebody out, and that's a good thing. So there you go. Dan, will the NBA players give speeches for the other guy being held now? I hope so. I do. I hope so. Dan, the big guy got the big gal out. There you go. I'm on the YouTube chat reading now. Dan, I'm glad she is out. This is from El Presidente. I'm glad she is out and hope Brittney Griner has a better appreciation for the United States. Spice Rack says Parsons bowed to the wokes. Yo, that's why I read it in his voice, because he's like, well, I don't even know the guy's name. Anyway, I hope Brittney Griner does have an appreciation. I hope all people have an appreciation. I mean, you can praise the president, fine. You can make this into a thing, fine. But I hope people have a little bit of a better appreciation of what we have here. You won't. You don't. We'll hear about it. We'll hear about everything wrong in the United States. Well, I'll tell you what doesn't happen. What doesn't happen is this. What doesn't happen in the United States is you don't go to a frickin' gulag. You don't go to a camp for vape. In fact, we give in to the vape crowd. We want the vape crowd. The vape crowd is big for some reason in our world. So good. Good Brittney Griner got out. Absolutely good. I've been talking about it forever. Good that President Biden gets his little moment. Hope he doesn't sniff her. Bad that Paul Whelan is still sitting there. His family seems to understand it. So God bless. Get him out. Get him out. And now that people know his name, get him out. But from a Putin standpoint, are you kidding me? This is like Herschel Walker going from the Dallas Cowboys for everything and its mother. This is like frickin' Ditka trading for Ricky Williams, getting up whatever. Ernie Broglio for Lou Brock, whatever you want to do there. I'm just telling you, man. I'm just telling you. Hey, Dan, does Captain Sniffy give Griner a Purple Heart? That's from Doc Martin. No. DD, my dad wants me to tell you you're a real patriotic American. Thank you, Sean. Yeah. Sniffy, you smell good. You smell like gulag. How did we elect this guy? If you think we're weak, you're right. I mean, if you think we're weak, you're right. I got the damn awards. I got a police officer that did something so egregious, I want him in jail for 9 months. It seems little, but there are certain things in this world that I want people to go to jail for, and this cop from Chicago on vacation did one of them. I want justice, and when you hear me, you will too. Max Bertos is going to join us. Tell us what the hell's going on in the World Cup at 10:45.
College football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking there's going to be practice the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all of this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point. It felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
There are certain things, ladies and gentlemen, there are certain things that are absolutes in my world. There are things you just don't do. One of them is taking off the ketchup bottle and spitting in it in a restaurant or any condiment on a table. The other is interfering in any way, shape, or form with the frickin' ice machine at a hotel. This Chicago cop decided he gonna get drunk. Henry Kopak was arrested in the early mornings Monday after he peed on the ice in the machine at Jimmy B's Beach Bar in St. Petersburg. I guess he didn't do it in a hotel, but that's one of the things that I think you should go to jail forever for
2 teams went out. One was actually a team from the unit that I now play on TV that was attached to us. They went out. They went on the front side, or went around to go to the front side of this other house, and my team was basically going towards the back side of the house. So very shortly, what happened was it was the wrong house, and when we hit that one house, the actual house it was, which was next door, which is not exactly next door because Sutter City is kind of weird of how it's built. But, you know, they heard us. They were getting ready, prepping, you know, their gear, you know, and so they were ready to go. So when that team came around, a bunch of dudes opened up out of the front, what I assume would be the living room, with AKs and shot. I think they shot 3. If I'm not mistaken, they shot 3 of the members of that team. 2 of them were pretty much out of the fight at that point. But they were, I mean, it was heavy. I wasn't on that side of the house, but just hearing it, I was like, oh man, that's extreme. So I ran into the back door, which came into the kitchen, cleared through there, went in the hallway, and those same guys, as we approached that room, shot through the walls of that hallway, shot the guy literally right next to me. So then we backed off, and then we were and I'd have to draw it out, but we were in a tactical position that was just there wasn't a lot we could do. So we were trying to kind of figure out how to solve it. And the next thing I know, I remember just the whole room, or actually it wasn't really a room, it was the hallway, you know, so it was more like a tube straight at me, and just everything exploded. And I actually remember hitting the ground and looking up down the hallway. And I was just confused.
Welcome back. I don't know where I was, but you're not allowed to pee in the ice. Nobody's allowed to pee in ice when I am around. You're just not allowed to. You're not allowed to at all. You're not. I got a guy, there are certain things. Don't mess with ketchup. You know what I mean? Don't mess with ketchup. And do me a favor. Don't pee in ice in hotels. There are certain things you should never do. This is a cop that did. I don't know where we left off, but you know what? That's it right there. That's it. I'm just telling you. That's the deal right there. Don't pee in things that we use, because don't you just always look at things and go, man, I hope no one messed with this. I hope nobody screwed around with this. Like, all right, I'm going to use that ketchup. All right, I'm going to use that salt. So this cop decides it's a good thing on break because, well, he's drunk. So he is going to go pee in the ice at a restaurant where others are. Now, look, I get it. You get drunk. You pee places. Don't do it in the ice. Don't do it in ketchup bottles, salt shakers, pepper, any type of condiments. Any type. Don't do it. Just do not do it. So, anyway, that's important. That's important to me. That's one of the goals of the world. That's what the goals of the world should be, right? Isn't it? Isn't it what, no, not the goals. That should be a violent crime. Because you and I, if you were at the restaurant, guess what you got to do? You got to drink that stuff. This guy should go to jail for a long time. I'm sorry, but he should go to jail for a long time. I know he's a cop, 5 years. I support cops, but I don't give a damn who you are. If you pee in an ice machine, you go to jail. That's public trust. All right? A high school team, this is pretty good. a high school team that has not completed a pass all year. Not completed a pass all year is playing for the state championship in California. It's called Granada High School. Look at this. This guy, 4 carries, 3 touchdowns, 174 yards. Granada Hills Charter High School in California. They're 12-2. They've run through, now this isn't small, the 4A state playoffs. They're playing San Marin without completing a single pass. A lot of teams run the ball, but most teams complete a single pass. John Elway is the alma mater. It's his alma mater. They've thrown 7 passes this year, but haven't completed 1. The Highlanders' run game has been lethal, averaging, listen to this, 422 yards per game. That's it. They got a kid, a 3-star recruit, Dijon Stanley, single-handedly. He's going to Utah, 2,600 yards. 2,600, he single-handedly dominated high school football. Is this unbelievable? His cousin has, 33 tackles and an interception. We work harder than most people, Dijon said. We practice every day at 5:30 in the morning. A lot of people can't do that. They can't fathom what we do. Not completing a pass the entire high school football season. That's it. Not completing a pass. How about that? And you're going to the 4A state championship. Now look, I don't pretend to know who they play against. I don't know. But I know this. Every football coach in America will tell you, hey, look, man. Hey, look. You got to have a run game. You got to have a run game. If you don't have a run game, you can't play football. They got a run game. I missed this one. So Dylan and Ryan and everybody, thank you. We have a rundown. This show is actually organized. A suspect was caught on camera wearing a very weird mask. How about that? Take a look at that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go rob something in Oklahoma. By the way, side note, Tulsa King is terrific. I can't understand a word, not one word that Sylvester Stallone says, not one word. But I got to tell you, I absolutely love it. I do. This is the ultimate football guy. This is someone that says, you know what? I'm going to take my passion, and I'm going to rob this, and I'm going to put a big-ass football on my head. That's what I'm going to do. What was the suspect wearing? Well, wore a big old football on his head. Really? Why? I don't know. Maybe they were cheering. Maybe they were I don't know. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, that's interesting to me. I don't get it. What are you going to do? If I were going to rob something, I would put something on my head that is nondescript. You couldn't see any of me, but it would certainly be nondescript. I don't want any clues. I want no clues. All right, last thing. This is Jerry Seinfeld-ish, right? Book returned to Australian school library was nearly 120 years overdue. You remember Bookman, the library cop? Bookman, the library cop, would have a field day with this bad boy. What's the charge on this? I don't know. But if any of you ever watch Seinfeld, if you ever watch anything about Seinfeld, Bookman, the library cop, was one of the great characters. 120 years. It's a grammar book. So you walk in, a school in Queensland, Australia said a book recently returned to its library was found to be nearly 120 years overdue. They said a copy of Great Expectations by Charles Dickens was recently returned to the school's library. This guy, Lamb, John Lamb, returned it. His grandfather, Arthur Lamb, had been a student at the facility during the 1902-03 school year and had checked the book out of the library in 1903. It was discovered by his family. He returned it 120 years overdue. There he is. There's Bookman. Hey, Jerry, he's got everything. He does. Bookman's awesome. Give it to Bookman, baby. Library cop. Speaking of cops, we're going to have Max Bretos on. We're going to go straight to Max, right? We might as well. Let's get this show going. Max, I got to tell you, you were very honest about the United States when you came on. You were very honest. You are very honest. I'm going to give you my take, if you don't mind. My take is this. The United States wasn't nearly as good as the Netherlands. The Netherlands seemed quicker, more sure of themselves in scoring areas. United States got to get a couple better players if they're going to compete. Am I wrong about that? I can't hear him. Uh-oh. Is Max on mute? Maximilian.
Hello. Can you hear me all right, Dan?
Hey, I got you, big dog. Did you hear what I asked you?
Yes. It's a very complicated conversation to have because I think we did probably overhype our players a little bit. There's some features that we had that I think came into play. The lack of depth certainly is at the top of that list when you look at the fact that we had to play our fullbacks, which were so key, Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest, and they look absolutely exhausted by that Dutch game. And, there were some big singular mistakes that led to all 3 goals. And we could have said coulda, shoulda, woulda. I know a lot of people said if Christian Pulisic scores that goal early in the 5th minute, how it could have been different, and it could have been. But this is a very strange sport. And we just the big picture in the World Cup, you see the teams that advance, whether it be Argentina, Brazil, France, England, and the Netherlands. This is a tried and tested formula with coming down from the coaching to the players, to the system, to the tactics. All of that comes into view where as much as hopeful as I wanted to be, as hopeful as a lot of people wanted to be, at the end of the day, the heavyweights always seem to succeed. Since the first World Cup in 1930, that is something that has always come into view with regards to this United States team. We saw it with Japan. We saw it with Korea. It's kind of hard to break through. But we and I know I spoke to you about this last time. We always go, well, let's build, and we'll continue to find those pieces, find a nice striker, find more depth, find some good center backs, young good center backs that we can build towards 2026. But again, you seize these opportunities when they get there. And the U.S., I feel, certainly did have a shot against the Netherlands. It just didn't fall into place. But there is certainly a lot of optimism building towards it. But it also falls in the coaching. It also falls in resources that you have. And we're not there yet. But there's a lot of homework. I'm optimistic, but it was also a stark reminder of the way things are in the world order of soccer.
Yeah, one of the things that I think you told me, I don't know, maybe Alexi Lawless, he was on the show, is this United States operation, the entire operation, more pointed towards 2026? That's the thing, right? That's like, okay, we're going to be where in 2026?
I think when you look at where they came from, they certainly say that, or they think that, but they feel that they were able to put a team that could be competitive now, which is great news when you think of where they were not qualifying for the World Cup in 2017, where they missed a generation. Remember, they didn't qualify for a couple Olympic Games, and there was like a generation between the team that played in 2014, which would be in their mid-30s now or early 30s, to teams that were to players that would be 28, 29, 27, 28, 29. We don't have that group. The players that we have that are very good now, as we saw with one of the 2 or 3 youngest teams at the World Cup, are 22, 23, 21. We had 3 teenagers there as well. So we're in that process of developing that. So for that perspective, 2026 is a more realistic goal. But, young teams perform. And if the stars align, they can deliver in 2022. This is a young man's game. That said, you have to be very optimistic because there's a lot of teams that are eliminated from the World Cup. They're looking at their roster saying, we got to build this whole thing again. Belgium is a good example. And a new cycle comes, and that takes time. So the United States, even though they're disappointed for 2022, and there's a lot of pressure on their shoulders for 2026 because that'll be the peak moment for this generation. It will be the fact that they are hosting it, and that's going to add added pressure as well. That they will have to deliver there, but it's certainly it's very positive because 2026 almost worked out perfectly because it's the sweet spot for these guys. 2022 wasn't guaranteed to all of us. Qualifying wasn't guaranteed. Making the round of 16, winning a couple trophies last year, and beating Mexico on multiple occasions, none of that was guaranteed. So we've made progress, and it's certainly looking bright for that. But again, a lot of improvement needs to be made, and we also have to. You got to hit it. You got to seize those opportunities.
Yeah, is soccer on the rise? Was that an accomplishment this year? Is it down? Where is soccer right now after what happened in the World Cup?
In the United States, so like the perception and
yes,
yes. Look, we've always been waiting for that eureka moment, and I see it working in Major League Soccer. We don't have the TV numbers. There's always slow growth. It's not massive growth. The opportunity for big growth realistically is when you have the World Cup, when you have a lot of eyeballs. So if you can make a semifinal and you can make people care about these players, and these players afterwards can be in commercials on television or making appearances on sitcoms and become household names within the American culture, then that is the best means for making it. So we haven't done that yet because, quite frankly, you have the World Cup and the millions that have tuned in for Fox and Telemundo that weren't really soccer fans are going to go away. You need to find a way to keep them. There are means to do it. These players playing in Europe, we get to see them. That's exciting. MLS has an exciting deal with Apple TV. We'll see where that goes. But the World Cup is such a huge opportunity. So if you don't make that run, then it's not really going to happen. I think you're seeing it with the women's game. The women's game is advancing by leaps and bounds. They have a competitive league. We know the names of all the players, certainly from the ones that won the 2 World Cup, from Megan Rapinoe and Carly Lloyd and Alex Morgan. That it's the sport needs the World Cup to really deliver a huge punch, and it punched, but not the knockout blow that you would have liked. So it's growing here, Dan, but the idea that it's moving up towards the NBA or the NFL or baseball, it's not at this point. We still need to roll up our sleeves. You need to develop new fans. The good news is there's a lot of young people playing and that are interested. And I think in 10, 20 years, we'll get there. It's just not going to be it's not going to be a quick fix.
Hey, Max, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, just do yourself a favor. The Soccer OG podcast with my friend Max Bretos is absolutely fantastic, and go there, do that. Couple of things. One, man, does the World Cup get a guy fired. I mean, as soon as a team loses, they get their coach the hell out of there as fast. Where are we with the coaching of the United States? Where are we here?
Well, Greg Berhalter is out of contract at the end of the year. And there was a report. There is a report out there, Jeff Carlisle, one of the excellent writers for around U.S. Soccer, who said that they are in conversations. And that is pretty standard. Of course, they're going to have like these interviews to see if there is interest. I mean, Greg Berhalter did a lot of good things. I think at the top of that list, made a young group of players better over a year, 18 months. He is going to, I believe, see where his options are. And I've been saying that because of what he's done with the young squad and the eyeballs, I mean, a lot of American eyes may not be on American soccer all the time, but they are in Europe. That's why these players are going there. We have Jesse Marsh coaching in the Premier League, and I know Greg Berhalter is looking at that and hoping to possibly follow in his footsteps. So that's out there. If he gets an opportunity to coach a team, because look, when you're with a national team, you get these guys once every 2 months. If you're with a club, you get it every week. It's much more fulfilling. That's why the best coaches in the world coach clubs, not national teams. So I think he's going to look at that. But again, the U.S. Soccer is going to do their due diligence here. He's met expectations, maybe exceeded a few, and did a pretty good job in a lot of categories. So it'd be crazy to just say, thank you, we're moving on, because the flip side is, who do you get? And, going on U.S. Twitter, you will see there are a lot of people that are asking, hey, why don't we get this guy and this guy? Big high profile choices that I think U.S. Soccer is probably not going to pursue. I think because the World Cup's in USA, they probably want a U.S. coach. I think that's a minor detail that's all in there. So we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see if, in fact, that Greg Berhalter is in. That would make things easier for U.S. Soccer as they move forward. But the public has spoken. They want to see a good coaching search. But you never know if the next guy is going to be worse than the current guy. Look at Mexico. We wanted to get the guy that Mexico had, Tata Martino, an accomplished Argentine coach, and Mexico's heading in the wrong direction right now. You just don't know. You just don't know. And Greg Berhalter, you do know. And I think that's an advantage for him.
When does he have any leverage? Like I saw the other day, his contract's up. Does Berhalter does he have any leverage here?
I think so. I mean, we'll see. I mean, if it's going to be hard for him to get an offer, I think, from, say, a European club. He'll get it from an MLS club, but I don't think that's going to give him leverage in this situation. Because everyone knows that if Greg Berhalter leaves U.S. Soccer, there's going to be 10 teams in this country that would be happy to have him on board. If he can get some feelers from a team, and remember, I mentioned Jesse Marsch, who's now at Leeds United, the Premier League. Coaching the Premier League is you have made it. And he started in Austria beforehand. So if Greg can get a job in a smaller league in Austria and the Netherlands, then I think he certainly has some leverage. It also depends on what U.S. Soccer is looking at, if they have some candidates out there, because a lot of people are going to tell him no. If they go for a guy like Roberto Martinez, who is a big name coach who was with Belgium, who has some American ties, if he says not really interested, because again, all these coaches do have options. If you're coaching a national team at this World Cup, you're going to get a job somewhere else, a good job. So it kind of depends on where U.S. Soccer is at. If they have some candidates, if there are some people that are truly interested that would be willing to take that job, it's going to be a messy situation. And I don't know, USA has a couple games in January, and they'll get busy somewhere into 2023. So you want to coach early on in that process, but you don't have to rush into it. So, I mean, Greg Berhalter does have some cards on his table, but I don't know if it's enough to make U.S. Soccer wait or rush into making an agreement with him. I know they like him, and Greg's brother works for U.S. Soccer. That's been part of the narrative this whole time. But we'll have to see if, in fact, that he is going to be able to sway them over. I'm sure U.S. Soccer is very happy with the job he's done. And we'll see if a second cycle has done well for a lot of coaches. Portugal, France, England have coaches in a second cycle. But in the U.S., when you have a second cycle, the history is not as good. So I don't know if they're looking at that.
Last thing, who wins this World Cup? Who's playing well? Who's playing the best?
I'm not the right person to ask, Dan, because since my final was Spain versus Denmark and my teams are long gone, I am an open book, and I'll share that with you guys. But yeah, it's the one thing I would look forward to, and this would be incredible, and I talk about it on my Soccer OG World Cup Daily. If Brazil beats Croatia on Friday and Argentina beats the Netherlands, we will have Brazil-Argentina semifinal that, to me, will be the biggest game in World Cup history because of the history of those two countries, because how infrequently we see those teams play in a World Cup, and because you have Messi versus Neymar. That would probably determine the winner. I've picked Brazil in the past. I don't want to keep picking them because they've always fallen short at around here, the quarterfinals or the semifinals. And I think a smart person, when you look at the two sides of the bracket, you got to like Brazil's draw and you got to like France's draw, and probably you're going to see those two in the final. But then again, this is the World Cup, and all strange things can happen. But if I had to make a choice, I would say Brazil beating France in the final.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen, the Soccer OG podcast, baby, with our friend Max Brados. Thank you, my friend. Thanks. That's great stuff. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, Dan. Enjoy the games. We'll talk again.
Yeah, man. What do we got for Woke-A-Dope? Who we picking on today to end the show, Ryan and Dylan? Who we picking on? I want to pick on somebody. People are picking on me. Oh, yeah. There's something that Affinity, every celebrity would have cut ties instantly. They promoted child porn, and nearly every celebrity is silent. Really makes you think, boy, is that true? I've said this forever. Why? Why are we... drives me nuts. Why are we attacking kids? Why are we? Look, last thing. Here's the deal. You can be on both sides of this Brittney Griner thing, and they're not mutually exclusive. Here it is. Was the trade worth it? 90% say no. 10% say yes. I got some little D-bag guy in Iowa who comes at me all the time. He's a little radio host, right? And he comes at me all the time. And he says, Dan, you're not worth my time. He tweets every single thing. So he retweeted my take on what Putin is saying, which is simply this. We get our smuggler back, and the United States, you get to have your dementia-ridden president get up there and act like he got to win. That's Putin's take. If you don't think it is, you're nuts. I said this all along. Putin doesn't care about Brittney Griner. What does he care? So this guy says, so predictable. So I asked this guy, this is what this guy does. I said, all right, so what's your take on what Putin would do? You're not worth my time, Dan. You got to understand, this is a guy that every time I tweet something comes at me. That's the chicken blank of the media. What's this guy's name? Todd something, I don't even know. But that's the chicken blank of the media. You're not worth it because you don't have an answer. It's simple. There are a lot of tentacles to this. Very happy Brittney Griner's out. Nobody's championed it more than I. You can say, well, I would rather have Paul Whelan out if that's what you want. Fine. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And then you go, well, what are we doing here? And the lady Weingarten said it. We got an African-American gay woman out. I don't know why that matters whether it's American, but you know it does. You know it does to this administration. So let's take the administrations. You're going to see all of the posturing, and rightfully so. He got somebody out that's very popular, so Biden's going to be there hugging and sniffing hair. But you got to think about what Putin's reaction is too. What's Putin's reaction? I'll tell you Putin's reaction. Putin's reaction is simple. You guys can have her. I got the freaking merchant of death, my most important smuggler, out. Now I can go to work. It's a weird thing. I'll give you another one. And this is what I asked David Hookstead. I'll give it to you. All right? Think about it. What, ladies and gentlemen, how do you equate this? We have given an open checkbook to the Ukraine. Billions. Yet we just helped Russia get their number one smuggler out of prison in the United States. How does that fit into all of this? It's an interesting thing. Yeah, we can sit up there and go, I'm glad she's out. She deserved to be. Yeah. Or you can sit there and go, oh, she's un-American. Yeah, whatever you want to do. But I talk in real, and I do it every day from 9 to 11 and every day from noon till 3. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to talk more about it 12 to 3 in 1 hour at 107.5 The Fan. Dylan and Davey, Aaron, thank you all so much. All of you on the YouTube chat, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. See you at noon. Baker Mayfield possibly out of Cleveland. You want to be a boss? That's how you